Beautiful.
Oh, I'm just going to, we left off last week. The suggestion was to have the acknowledgement so that if you click on it, like a little thing opens up.
Right.
Jim suggested an accordion that we
Right.
could do with CSS.
Mm-hmm.
However, Jim, I was able to do some exploring,
Yeah.
and hold on, I'm going to just go through here. I create like a little text thing. See here?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Hey, look at that.
So
Whoa.
this is actually done. I was able to download a module for the CK editor, and then incorporate it into the CK editor.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is acceptable. I'm just going back here.
Well, I suppose the thing to consider is that, I mean, right now we're working on, this Drupal site, right? The eventual goal will be to add a center paper's content type to the real Lears Drupal,
Mm-hmm.
which will happen, some time from now. But when we do that, I guess it makes sense to use the same front-end design component thingies that they have elsewhere.
Mm.
But I'm not sure. I mean, we don't have to worry too much about that right now. Actually,
Sure.
I think that what this is beautiful for them concerned.
Great. Yeah. So,
Okay,
oh, go ahead, Debbie.
go ahead. Go, you go.
Oh, I was just gonna say, in terms of reusability, so that looks great. First of all, like, good job on figuring that out. I was worried about going, trying to figure out exactly how to do that on the call, because the more complex we get, the harder it gets to kind of figure it out together over a screen share. But it's great that you just kind of took that idea and ran with it and figured it out. So nicely done on that. And then in terms of like reusability for code, Drupal is a little difficult in that arena, but one way that you can accomplish it, and it's kind of a thing that was used largely in Drupal 7 because it didn't have the configuration management that Drupal 8 has, is this module called features. And what that does is it allows you to kind of automate the wrapping up of certain types of information into like something that can be exported from one site and imported on another site. So, for instance, this content type that you have here, this RDRC papers, you could wrap that up in a feature and potentially share that across different sites if you wanted to at some point.
Sure. Well, I expect that when we put to the Lears site,
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that we're going to want to do more than that, and we'll because there's going to be a lot of things that are different. So I think what we're going to end up doing is just basically just redoing all the work that we're doing now.
Sure.
But of course, with the advantage that we've already done it and we kind of have an idea of how.
Yep.
So, we'll see.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot of things different once we're on the Drupal site.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the most important of which is that the authors are going to be entity references into the global user content type.
Yep.
Which, I mean, Jim, have you seen Lear's, the site so far staging?
I saw it early on, but I haven't been really plugged into that in quite a while. So it's probably progressed a fair amount since I've been there.
Here we go. Okay, so actually, if we could just very briefly take a look at a working paper page just to see, yep, working papers. And just click on, scroll down a bit. Click on one of these. No, that's the working paper itself. So this is a UI problem. It's got to
Okay.
be the title. Okay. So if you see this, this looks like you scroll down for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going. There, acknowledgements and disclosures. You hit the thing, and the accordion opens up.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously they have, JavaScript or CSS or whatever that does this.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is that once we get to that point for the center papers, we would use whatever they have.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So we're not going to. And then the other thing you can see is if you scroll up to where the authors are. So, that's the bug. Yeah, those authors are supposed to be clickable links
Gotcha.
to their profile page.
Yep.
But it doesn't work right now. Don't worry about it. In any
Gotcha.
case, the point is they are entry references.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So, yeah, I think in a lot of like the way you construct this page comes down to kind of like the approach that you take on it. And so, Debbie, I'm not exact. It sounds like you did your accordion through like the WYSIWYG editor, and I think we talked last week about that. You know, you can definitely do that. One thing that I always caution with like unstructured fields like that is that the HTML is malleable. So potentially an editor can go in there and accidentally like delete some of the markup that's used in your style code behind the scenes accidentally. Versus if you were to use something a little more structured, like Drupal has this module called paragraphs, which I'm sure you're using on the test site there. And that basically gives like a component that you can add to the page and only allows an editor to edit the changeable content like a title or the body description text, and then the actual markup is built behind the scenes as part of that component. So that way it makes it a little less error prone for those accordions to kind of break over time. But you know, either approach is okay to do as long as you're, you know, you and your content editors are aware of the way that you're approaching it.
Right. That's actually a fair point because I mean, ultimately we're going to have, well, in this Drupal we will only have a dozen of them.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just do what you editor for all 12
Mm-hmm.
in the
Yeah.
short term.
Yeah.
So what it is, Jim, it's this little thing here.
Insert accordion.
Oh, cool.
Beautiful.
That's really cool. So was that a module that you added, or how did you add that to the CK editor?
So I went into configuration and then I went
Oh, wonderful.
to
It's already a part of it. You added one of those widgets to the text
Yeah.
editor. That's great. Cool. I actually didn't know that was a default thing. So you just taught me something. That's great.
and then what I continue to do, because the default colors are pretty ugly, I
Mm.
went into our CSS file,
Mhm.
and I changed the background color. Well, you can see here, that's the wonderful thing.
Oh yeah.
Instead. However,
Mm-hmm.
I am not able to figure out.
So it looks like that last little bracket's going the wrong way. So that might be, if that hover's not working, it might have something to do with that bracket facing the wrong way, potentially.
Oh, yeah. Last one.
And then, so it also looks like you're doing the direct child selector. That's great. Those are really handy. As long as they're actually adding up to the correct level of nesting, then those things are super awesome to use. The little the right arrow that you have there. So that's great. That basically oh, what's that?
Sorry?
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, like, that's great that you're using the direct child selector. Those are super handy, so you don't accidentally select nested children. So that looks awesome.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go to configuration here and clear the cache.
Oh, there it is. CK editor accordion. Check it out.
Yeah.
Oh, nifty.
Very cool.
Sorry, no, I apologize. Yeah, go ahead.
So are the changes not coming through that you want, Debbie? Is that the issue, or are they okay at this point?
I'll show you.
Okay.
Actually,
Well, it's possible that that's
it is possible. Let me just open up
I mean, it could take a while when you clear the cache like that. Would it be faster to do it from a line? Are you comfortare working on a command line in Unix? Like, you do that like a lot?
only with some of the script ones.
Yeah. Okay. So mostly I'm thinking is like we could set you up with Brush,
Mm-hmm.
and then you could do Brush CR, and that might be faster or easier or more convenient than hitting that button from here. But that's a detail.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So
what.
I can't get rid of this ugly blue.
Okay, let's take a look at it. So I think usually this just comes down to making sure that we're hitting the exact element that we want with the CSS. So Debbie, do you want to do that? Yeah, you know, sometimes it's just a little nuance. So do you want to like right click and inspect that, and we can take a look at the the HTML and the CSS that's being targeted and see if we can figure it out? Great. So are you able to close that left menu there? Yeah, perfect. Cool. All right. So one of the things I can see here is, do you see where it has the, so it has the CK editor, accordion container, DL, yeah, far on the right, up a little bit, where that blue style is being, so that one's being overridden by a style above it. Yep, that one up there, exactly. So that looks like it's CK editor, accordion, a direct DL, and then a DT, and a direct hover A. Okay, so basically this is what you were trying to target in your CSS, I think. Sorry, the one right above that with the hover attribute on it. You see that?
I changed that.
Oh, that's your style.
Take a look at it. I'm going to show you the CSS.
Okay.
The background color I changed. I guess I changed it twice. No.
Mm-hmm.
The hover here. Yeah, I changed the hover here.
Okay. And what color do you want the stuff to appear?
I was thinking, and the Alex is in on this, same color, maybe is this top,
sure.
and have this the same. I don't want it this blue, I was thinking this.
So like a light blue?
I like that.
So, yeah, blue color.
Okay.
Beautiful.
I thought it was good.
So this is, right now it's that dark blue, which is in the state without a hover.
Mm-hmm.
So can we put in like,
So this is where I put it in, the hover, Jim?
Yeah.
Which is that color that is copy, and it doesn't
Sure.
work, so I guess I'm the wrong thing.
Well, yeah, okay. So the first thing I would do is let's make sure that the anchor tag, that A tag there, is actually that filling up that whole space. So like, if you like scroll all the way down on the very right hand pane you have open there in the CSS, they have the document object model at the bottom in Chrome, I think. Are you in Chrome right now? Oh, you're in Edge, aren't you? They might have it too. If you scroll all the way, well, if you scroll all the way down, maybe they have it. Usually there's like a little thing that'll show you exactly where the element border is, where the padding, and where the margin. No, it doesn't look like they have that.
I can open it in the Chrome window, hold on.
Well, you can do it. You can model it another way. If you just hover over the HTML and the center pane you have there, you can kind of see how large the elements are. Because, so for instance, if the link is, by default, the link is only going to be the text there, right? And the only way you can make it, that anchor tag appear that whole box, is by increasing the width in the padding, and then you'd have to display it as like a inline block or something. So I just want to make sure that we're actually targeting that whole square there and not just the anchor tag text, that acknowledgement text. Does that make sense? So if you
What do I do?
so you can either open it in Chrome, or we could take a look and just try to figure it out by looking at this directly. But
now let's open it in Chrome. I mean, I think easily enough.
it gives you a help.
I think one of the
Okay.
Jim, one of the values of doing this is absolutely to sort of explore how, like, front-end development gets into, okay, which browsers have tools that work a little bit differently,
Yeah.
that are common best practice.
Yeah.
I feel like, so let me ask you the following question, Jim.
Sure.
Would you say that most front-end developers out there, if they're doing this kind of thing, are going to be doing it in Chrome, because it's sort of Google and like the most common modern browser?
Yeah, I think so. Chrome definitely has the biggest market share these days, and I think a lot of developers are using Chrome, probably the majority. Although I've kind of seen this resurgence of Firefox has been spending a lot of time in their development tools, and I actually think my own personal biased opinion is that Firefox actually has the best tools out there. Although Chrome is probably the most widely used, and they're also very good. So you're kind of splitting hairs between Firefox and Chrome. Each one gets a little nice edge on each other. My opinion, and again, I think it's a little biased just because I don't use a lot of Microsoft products, but I have a biased opinion that the Internet Explorer tools probably are not up to that level. But then again, I don't really know firsthand.
I hear you.
So
So here we go. Okay, A, class equals CK editor accordion toggle. And like if you mouse over there, okay, right now, don't move the mouse.
yep,
So what I'm seeing is that is A dot CK editor accordion toggler.
mm-hmm.
No,
Yep.
now I'm confused.
So it looks to
So
me.
is it a thing or is it just is it the green box or the blue box?
So it's both. So the blue box is probably the element size, and the green box is probably the padding applied to it. So let's take a look actually,
Oh,
in your far right side here, Debbie, on the where the styles are. I hope your Chrome has this, but if you scroll down on the far right side, there, see that's your DOM thing. So if you're clicking on the A tag on the HTML where it is, so you see in your middle pane how the A tag is highlighted. Now, if you hover over any one of these sections, it should show you exactly what is being applied. So you can see the padding there is applied on the left-hand side. If you go to the middle, that's the actual element size. And it kind of gives you that visual representation of like, what is the exact element? What is the padding? How thick is the border? Sometimes there's a border thickness to it. A lot of times it won't have any thickness in this case. And then are there any margins applied to the very outer side of it? So that gives you an idea of how this is kind of laid out in a visual way. So it looks like you're okay. So it looks like the link is indeed going with the padding. It's taking up that full area of the box. So at least we're targeting the right thing, because sometimes, a link by default without some style applied to it will just be text. And then it'll be very hard to kind of apply like a background color to it and wonder why it's not, changing that whole thing. So I think you're in good shape there. So let's go up a little bit and look at some of the styles that you're trying to apply to it and make sure that they're, see if they're coming through at all. So one thing you can do is it looks like you've applied that hover attribute style. So you might want to try to hover over your element there and see if it actually is changing that color. I haven't seen if it is or is not yet. So with your mouse, like if you actually hover over the acknowledgement, it is. Okay, so that style is applying, it looks like. That's your color that you picked, correct? Cool.
So all we need to do now is set it to apply when there is not hover.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Which could it be remove the hover state from the selector?
yeah, something like that should work. So if you have another style there without the hover state, which it looked like you might have had something in there, Debbie. You want to switch back to your CSS?
So so if you just remove, accordion containers, EQDLT, A:hover, get rid of the curve.
Oh, so you have an active state, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If you take that last style and you remove that hover pseudo selector, like Alex said, then that should give you the same color whether it's hovered over or not.
Get rid of this?
Yep.
But you want to keep both of them probably. If you want the hover and so you want to copy that whole section, Debbie, and you want to paste it again, and then remove the hover for one of the sections and leave it for the other one.
Well, unless we're just going to have them. Okay, sure.
Or I mean, you can do it. You can do it a couple different ways. So, do you want the?
Well, I understand what you're. Just A.
A colon or just
No
A?
colon, no colon. Yeah, like that. Oh, and now is that the color we wanted? It is, right? Yeah, good.
Yep.
This will work.
Alright, what's the
And then
Or did you save it?
yeah. So that should give you the same color for both of them. If you probably have to clear the caches. Just and Debbie, there's some settings, Drupal settings that we can set up that will clear your caches automatically on each build or each page load while you're developing. It makes things a lot easier. So we can look into that at some point. It's kind of a little funny to set up, but we can set that up if it's helpful to you.
I thought some flag somewhere that basically said never cache anything.
Yeah.
I tried to turn on, but I may not have.
It used to be a lot easier in Drupal 7 to do. Like now you have to kind of go into development services.yaml. It's like one of those site's default configuration files. And there's a couple settings you can set in there, but you also have to enable that file in your actual settings file because it's commented out by default. So it's like a multi-step thing. It's a little tricky. But there's also a really helpful. We haven't had to. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I mean, you could argue also that, like, I mean, we don't really care, but we could like, okay, right now we're fussing with it,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, this is in theory a live site that people are using, so maybe you should actually turn on caching, when we are not in the middle of working on it.
Definitely.
Maybe this is okay. I won't worry about it too much.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point.
And now the trick is, so what happens when you hover over it? Well, it goes a little bit lighter, which is okay.
Yep.
So this is beautiful, right?
Yep. Looks great.
How come it's not closing? You have to click on it. But you have to click on that, not the little... Yeah, okay. That's fine.
Okay, so now I'm gonna get off the test page.
Okay.
And we're gonna go to...
So can we, if I may suggest, Debbie, I think that you now know how to do this, and you can put it in the real one offline. Can I ask a question about structure?
Whatever you want.
Well, if that's okay with you, Deb. So what I'm saying is, so let's
Yeah, that's right. I think
yeah.
I'm ready to move on.
Yeah. So what I wanted to ask about, Jim,
Mhm.
is entity references.
Yes.
So have here, so if we go to manage fields on papers, for example, then and we go down to so here's the okay, paper to project. Right, paper to project. So the paper to project entity reference
Mm-hmm.
says that a given paper is related to one and only one project.
Okay.
Right? Okay. And my understanding from the people who do this is that most of the time, for every one project, there's going to be one paper.
Mhm.
But there's one case where there's a project that's going to have two papers.
Mm.
So I have two questions. One is, do you have to basically set up entity references in both directions, or is it possible to create like a component on the project that says, find all the papers that point to me in an entity reference in this field on the paper?
Mm-hmm.
See?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one question, and then the other question is, so that's like, is that possible?
Yep.
Or does it have to set up the opposite direction pointer from the project to the paper?
Yeah. So the way that I typically see, so okay, there's a couple parts of this, but the way that I typically set it up myself and the way that I see it largely done is that you point in one direction. So like I don't typically see people having to point them both, because then you get this kind of weird circular creation where it's like you have to create one, create the other one, point to the first one, then go back to the first one and point it back to the second one, right? And like that content editing workflow is really tricky and confusing. Now it depends on how you are trying. So of course it's very easy to, on the one that points to another node, to like reference, either display that node or display a link to that node or do something with it on that one, right? That's very simple to do.
Yep.
Now the other one becomes a little more tricky. It's like, how do you get the references from the other one? And it depends on like exactly what you're trying to do, but largely the way I see it done, if you're doing it kind of like the Drupal out of the box way, is somehow you pull in a view or you leverage views in some way. Are you pretty familiar with views at this point? It's like the way to kind of aggregate the data.
Somewhat.
Yeah. So views is a Drupal. It's one of the probably the best things that Drupal does, which is probably why Drupal took off in popularity. But it allows you to basically, content types allow you to model your content, and then views allow you to display them in lists or grids or calendars or whatever you want. And it's essentially what you would do is you would create a view, and views have these concepts of relationships and contextual filters, and between some kind of magic with setting up the relationship between those things, and then displaying them only when certain relationships are found, you can display content in unique ways. So probably what I would do on that secondary one is I would somehow manipulate a view and attach that to that piece of content. Although that's a very like high level answer. I don't know your specific case, and that might be exceedingly difficult depending on what you're trying to do.
So let's do it. So we're going to go to where does one create a view? Is views under structure? I think it is.
Sure. Yep.
Right. View. Yep.
So are we trying to go to the paper right now, and we?
So this is going to be. So hang on, just let's be clear. So never mind where it's being displayed. It is a view that lists papers that have an entity reference to a given project.
Okay.
So the view is going to be, I mean, it's yeah. So let's create a new one. I think.
So it's kind of
Well, yeah. I mean, is this a view?
yeah. That I created.
So you, yep. Okay. All right.
Which
Yeah,
is-
because
and this would be the this would be the link
yep.
from that would be on the menu going to the project.
Yep.
And then here goes.
Right. I think this is the opposite direction than what I'm looking for. So, all right. So can we create a view? Just add view. Okay. View name. Alex is confused. No. View name. This is going to be papers by project.
Okay. So, Alex, before we go too far, can I just try to solidify my understanding? So,
Yep.
do we want this? Is the end user experience going to be we are on a project page and then we see
Yeah.
what papers have been tagged with that project?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, cool. So the content will be of type papers in the view settings there, Debbie. Do you see where it says all?
Right.
Yeah.
Papers.
Right?
Yep.
Tagged. Oh,
No,
that's fine. Okay.
And then
I don't create a page.
yeah, so we might want to.
Block.
Yeah, I'd probably create a block in this case. You got depending on what you're doing. Like if you are adding additional modules, like a view field module rather.
Yeah.
You could pull in a page, but let's create a block right now. It's going to be the easiest way that we do this, I think.
Oh, look at this. Oh, this is beautiful. You know what? I'm getting what you're saying about Drupal being famous for views, because this is slick.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Display format of titles links. Let's see here.
So yeah, how do you want it to actually appear? Do you?
Only grid, HTML list, table. What's an HTML list?
Do you know? I don't.
VP?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I don't really use HTML list all that often. I usually do either like a grid, a table, or unformatted.
All right. You know what? Let's leave it. I don't know. Unformatted. So the thing that we actually want. What happens if you say field?
So fields, you get to pick all the fields from that paper content type that you want to appear there.
Okay.
And all these settings are configurable, so you can change them later if you want. But I would do, yeah. For now, just do an unformatted list of fields so you can like see the content coming across. I think the tricky bit here is going to be getting the relationship and the thing to display on the correct page.
That's true. So okay. So for now, let's put it back to link title, just because titled links. Let's make it titled links for now, because that'll help us.
Mhm.
Okay. So then items for block 5 is
Yep.
totally fine.
Yep.
Okay.
Then save and edit
So,
that.
but we can't find anything else. So save and edit, I guess.
And that's gonna, so this is like the precursor to the views interface. This is gonna open up, that's like giving you some quick options, and now it's gonna open us up to the whole world of like what views does here.
Okay. So fields. Okay. Format, title, filter criteria. That's what we want.
So that is,
Public.
the filter criteria is a flat filter. We're actually going to want to go to advanced, and we have to do a little bit more than the typical. So on the very right hand side, you see where it says advanced? It's kind of like an accordion. So filters basically means this, and if I can step back, like, so filters is like, we are going to narrow down this list. Right now, the list is like giving you all published papers, right? And a filter would say like, give us all
Right.
published paper with a certain title, but we don't want to globally filter everything. We
Yeah,
want to,
but we-
we want to contextually filter. We want to say, hey, if I'm on a page with a certain node ID, I want to make sure that this node ID equals the content that is referenced in this other type of content, and then I want that to appear.
yeah.
So I think you can do this.
So,
Oh.
very briefly, what is the difference between contextual filters and relationships? So I would have thought it was relationships that you're looking for.
Yeah, so they're both very similar. So typically again, like to step back, so like if we're on a node that references another node, for instance, right? And we have a list of the first node. Let's call it A, and A has a field on it that references B. If we want to get field values from B and list it in this list with the stuff that's listed in A, if you're following me, then you need to create a relationship to B so you can then pull the fields from B and display them in the list. Similarly, if we wanted to,
I see.
we could use fields from B in the contextual filter or the regular filter, but we need to create that relationship so we can have access to those fields first. So the way that Drupal used to work in the past, in order to do a contextual filter based on the relationship, you used to have to, based on the second part, you used to have to create a relationship first and then use the content ID. I think there's a little bit of a shortcut in Drupal 8 now, so you can actually do it directly through the contextual filter. So what we have to do is, first of all, we're on a page, we're creating a block that lists papers, right? Do you know off the top of your head what the field name is that points to the project? Do you know what that is off the top of your head so we can look for it?
Yeah, it's the papers, the projects to paper, I think.
Okay.
Field.
Awesome. So let's click add next to the contextual filter, that little button to the right of contextual filters, and let's look for that field there. Oh, sorry, the screen is like a little bit delayed for me. I see things like I think like 5 seconds behind you.
Okay.
Yeah, so you want to just look for that field.
There's a bunch of fields there.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
All right. Paper name. It's one further down. Like that. Okay, paper to project, field paper to project. So we check that, right?
Paper to yes. So grab that. And
Okay. Add and configure contextual filters.
Exactly.
That's the only thing that we want to filter for. So yeah.
Now I think, and again, I might be wrong on this. So I think that's going to give you the node ID for that reference. But if it's not, then we can obviously create an entity reference and then just get the ID in a two-stepper. But I think this will save us a little time. So what we want to do is we want to click the second option down there where it says provide default value.
Sure.
Do you see that there? In that drop down? Okay, great. And then
I'm a little. Okay, when the filter value is not available.
Yep. So if someone
When the filter value is available, wouldn't we just say nothing?
So I
Behind
think
view.
I think so the way that this is the typical way I set up, and I think what this is saying is if you haven't explicitly passed the value somehow, where should I go to get that value? So so bear with me a little bit, and if I'm wrong, we can diagnose it. But
Right.
so you actually want to, so instead of fixed, you want to get the content ID, because think about it, we're going to be on a project page, right? And that project page
Right.
behind the scenes is going to have a URL. So you want to get the content ID from the URL. And so you're basically saying on that project page, give me that content ID and then filter it based on this field here.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, and then let's just apply that for now. And see if we can get this working at all. And we can do it right through the views preview. And then I would just save this view here. So save in the left-hand corner there. And then we can test with a couple of use cases that we know about and see if we can get it working.
Right.
So
Okay,
do we have any?
bottom is-
Yeah, at the bottom there's a preview there, and we can start passing in contextual IDs and filters. But we just so
Okay. So we need basically we need the title of a page that has a link to it. So
yeah, we want.
and maybe in another tab, Debbie, can we look for? Do we have a paper up somewhere?
So I think we want, Alex. I think we want a project node ID. So, and it has to be one that.
Project node ID.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And it has to be one that has actually been tagged by a paper. So if we haven't tagged any, we should make sure we do that real quick.
So too. So, oh, you know what? Yeah, there you go. Yep, that one. So let's just click into it to make sure that we know, or actually, yeah. Oh, of course it's not visible now.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
We know it has been tagged.
Yeah. So you could create a new paper right now and just tag it. Yeah. It's a little funny.
No, we have one.
Okay.
That's right, but this is what we want.
So if you hover over edit, Debbie, just see where it says edit at the top there. Just hover over it so we can see what the ID is. So do you see where? Yeah, 50. Okay. So let's go back to the view and let's just pop in 50, and we'll see if any of the papers appear.
Yep. Okay.
So
there you put in 50, you think?
yeah, put in 50 there and update the preview and see if anything happens there.
Content, NB19-02, papers, yes!
So is that the paper that's referencing it? So click on, you could open that in a new tab. Okay, perfect. So that relationship's working. So now we have to make sure that we get these blocks to appear on the appropriate pages. So there's a couple ways you can do that. You're going to do it through probably the block interface. So there's a lot of, let me step back again. There's a lot of ways that you can do this. And the way that I see it, the way that we do it on like Boston.gov, for instance, is we use paragraphs for almost everything. Paragraphs are our component-based structure. We create everything with components, and basically we would have a paragraph that's designated to either reference this view directly, or reference a block that's referencing the view, or reference all sorts of different things, right? So we would attach that paragraph explicitly to a page. For now, I'm going to cut out that step just because we don't have paragraphs or anything set up here, and I'm going to go right to the block interface, and we're going to globally apply the block to all project pages. Okay. So the way that you want to do it, so first of all, we have this block here named, this is our papers by project block, right? So if we go to our structure blocks interface, we can now reference this and add it based on a certain criteria. So we'll just do that real quick. Yeah, no problem. So block layout's the one you want. And then make sure that, Debbie, I know how we have a lot of like themes going. Make sure that we're on the actual, is this the theme that we're using right now? Okay, so RDRC, perfect. And then, so in here, there's going to be a section called content, most likely. These are variable, like we set these up at some point, but is there one called content? Oh, content, perfect. So place block, and then you'll search for that new block that you've created. Awesome. And you guys are going faster than my screen, but that's great. It seems like you're getting it. On the next screen, there'll be, okay, perfect. So you can change the visibility settings based on a lot of different things. Like you could say only appear on pages that have a certain path, or only appear on whatever. Since we're kind of consolidating this to one content type, you can just check that content type off that list there. So project, exactly.
Yep. And
you can
what's the stuff at the top?
Let's see. So there's some settings up there. So you can override. So you know how the view said display only 5 of these. If there's 5, don't display anymore. Yeah. You could override that stuff there. Right now it's displaying a title. You probably, I don't know if you want that title to display or not, but you can kind of configure some of that stuff there. You can like uncheck this.
Leave it for now.
Yeah.
And we'll change it later.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can go back and change it. So then if you save that, And then once the thing is saved, before you navigate away from the page, just scroll all the way to the bottom and click save on the all blocks page just to make sure everything
Oh,
is saved.
yep. Block settings have been updated. Okay.
Cool. And so now you can try to visit one of those pages, and let's just see if it actually appears on the screen.
Now we want to no, not here. Go to the actual site.
Yep.
If we go to that project, yep, that one. Yeah, just hit the view. Uh-huh. Papers by project, link to NB19-02.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Cool.
We did it.
Hey.
Dude, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so now the only other, I mean, everything else, in my opinion, is just kind of visual and theming stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How are we doing for time? So if we can just, I may leave you guys to do it. Can we just quickly, can we look at the paper page for 1 second?
Mm-hmm. And I got after that, I have two things I'd like to recap on.
Really valuable. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Jim.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, just to take a brief step back here.
Yep.
To let you know, so because there is so much, so when on the live on the Lear's Drupal site,
Mm-hmm.
they are actually having the entity references pointing in both directions.
Okay.
A lot
Mm.
for stuff that they are importing from the back office.
Okay.
I think there's actually good reason for that.
There might be.
But
There
if
might
you
be.
know that it's full. So okay, so this is really cool. The only thing we really need to do here is put in the accordion like we said, and then this is a theming visual thing. So like download PDF and download executive summary PDF. Those instead of actually showing the file name, it would be great if there could just be a link that just the text of the link is literally download PDF.
Mm-hmm.
And then download executive summary, or the text of the link, and hide the actual file name. These file names are going to be like nobody cares.
Yep.
And then other than that, it's just a matter of kind of visual design of like do you want to say like paper project is a bit of a like a random person might not know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you could say something like project that funded this paper. I don't know exactly what we want there, but
Yep.
like something. And this is something where like I think we're going to go back to Janet and Cecilia and what they wanted to say.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
figure out how to change it exactly.
Yep.
Well, I know what we did for Reeves and Dan and Field, and that's what the title.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Right.
It's a label.
But there's a way to change. Yeah. And that's basically it. I mean, and otherwise, if you guys, and then scroll up for a second. So issue paper date. I probably it's that label, but I'm not really sure.
So
I really like the thing with the horizontal tools like that. That's cool.
yeah.
Anyway, I mean, so there's a certain amount of like, I am not a visual designer. If you guys want to like fuss with this and it might not, like the word abstract might or might not be supposed to be there. I'm not really sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm getting into too much of this. So like
Sure.
basically, we just need this a certain amount of visual, like how it should look that remains to be done. That's
Yep.
all.
And all that
Stephanie,
stuff.
I'm gonna let you do 15 minutes left. I'm gonna leave you guys, and you can work on some visual design, some visual stuff, and this is extremely helpful. Thank
Great.
you.
Yeah. Sure. No problem.
All right.
Great. Good to talk to you, Alex.
Debbie? Yep. Bye.
See ya. So Debbie, are you heading off too?
No.
Okay. So those
Are you ready?
yeah, those last just a couple of points on what Alex said there. Just so you know how to do it. So I think you know how to do the paper to project. So if you wanted to change that text, you would change the label text. Now for the download links, if you wanted, oh sorry, go ahead. So you would it would be actually on the so you're on the display settings right now. If you go to the manage fields, exactly, you can change. you would click edit next to the paper to projects. And then you could just change the label there.
We'll just put that in
Yeah, exactly.
here.
So,
What about these two?
so the other
What
ones,
about the,
yeah. So let's can you go one step back and so we can edit the fields, the other type of fields. And there's descriptions we can add there. So let's look. So one of those PDF fields, whatever, like download executive PDF, I think that's one of them. If you click edit next to that,
but you can't put a hyperlink here.
so yeah, so if you go down a little bit, and see where it says enable description field, click that. And then save that. And then go back to one of those pages that we were on that had the long attachment there. Actually, yeah, so there's, yeah, so like edit
What do
that,
you want to, I'm sorry?
edit this page here. And then scroll down to the PDFs. See where it says description now? Just like add a say test there, and then let's just save it and see what happens.
Should say F?
Test or whatever you want for now. Or if you want to call, maybe it's better to just use like the actual name you want it to appear. What do you want that link to appear as?
I think download PDF.
Okay,
Or
say
download paper.
okay,
Download paper.
perfect. Say download paper there.
And say that.
Yep, and then save that. Okay. So now you have the link text updated, right? That's, I think, what Alex was getting at.
Then we go back into manage display. And then have this in it,
Gonna hide the title.
right?
Yeah, if you want to hide the title, you can do it right there. Perfect.
Didn't go away.
It didn't go away. Were we on the full? Make sure we're on the full view mode. So if you're,
Content.
yeah, yeah, that's a little funny, but
Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hide this too, because we actually don't want to have.
yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, looks great. Save that.
And then I think we just
Sweet.
go back to manage. No manage field.
Mm-hmm.
And go
Maybe you can add a description to the. Yep, exactly. Just add a description to that one as well. And then after that's done, Debbie, I think we only have a couple minutes. I wanted to just make one final point on the view stuff we were doing earlier to help you kind of point you in the right direction. And then I'm probably going to have to just sign off for today, and maybe we could check in next week if that works for you.
okay. Then I'll be download. Okay.
Okay, awesome. So the last thing I wanted to do is, can you go back to the project page that we had that had the block that we placed on it? Do you remember which page that's on? I can't remember. It's in Chrome or not. Okay. Awesome. So yeah, so do you see how like right now all it is doing is displaying a title? So eventually we might want it to display more information, right? Like we might want to have maybe part of the description or some other things going on there. So there's a couple different ways that we can do that so we can display more. I just want to quickly show you it so you can kind of be pointed in that direction so you and Alex can carry on without me. But do you have the view open still somewhere on one of these tabs? The actual view that we were editing? It might be, I don't know if I see it up there. Yeah, maybe we should open it again. So if we go to structure here in views. Oh, you got it. Perfect. Okay, so do you see where it says fields there? We could add another field there. So like, you want to just do one real quick so we can just do it as a test? Like click add. And is there a description field on the papers? I can't remember if there's a body. Okay, let's see. Actually, at the top there, can you scroll back up? See where it said body at the very top? Does that appear on, sorry, it's a little slow on my end. I don't see it quite yet. I just want to see if that appears on. Do you see body on there? All the way at the top?
Body?
Yeah, it says body. If you scroll all the way to the top, I can't see it yet because my screen's a little delayed. Okay. Does it appear in papers? No, it doesn't appear in papers. So is there a field on papers that is like a description field? So let's just uncheck body. I don't think that appears in the one that we want. So if you open up like a new, like if you go to manage fields on a paper, can we just see what fields are available there in a different tab? Is this a paper? This is a paper. Okay, great. So so if you scroll down here, so I can see the whole thing, there's a text plain, text formatted long. Okay, so let's either do the abstract or the acknowledgements. Let's go back to the view. And then search for abstract or acknowledgements. Let's grab the abstract there. And let's just add and configure fields. I just want to show you a couple little options you can do with something like this. Okay, it's taking a second to load on my page. Okay, and then where it says rewrite results, can you click that? Open that accordion there. You see where it says rewrite results? Okay, so now you can do things like you could trim. So this field's probably a decently long field, but you could like click that option that says trim this field to a maximum number of characters. Like click that just for now, just to demonstrate what this looks like. And then say for max characters, just say like 50 or something like that.
50?
Yeah, 50. It's any arbitrary number right now. You can go in and change this. I just want to show you a couple examples. So basically, it's going to take this field and it's going to do a shortened version of this display, and it's going to add like a little dot, dot, dot at the end of it. So let's apply this.
Okay.
And then let's save this view. Let's go. Did you save the view?
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay. It's all right.
Okay.
And then so at the bottom there, exactly. And then once that's saved, if you go back to the page and reload it, there should be a little bit of additional information there. So you can see how you can start building that structure out however you want to build it. We did like a shortened field of the I can't remember if it was the abstract or the acknowledgements, but you can kind of build out that structure there. And then if you go back to the view, I wanted to show you an alternative way to do this. So we go back to that view page. So if you scroll down, do you see how it says you're showing fields? Click on the where it says fields. Sorry. Under format, it says show and then fields. You see that? So it's like format, unformatted settings, and it says show fields settings. Yeah, if you click on fields. And we'll make a change and then we'll just revert it. So so say content instead of fields. And then yeah, content instead of fields, and then we'll click apply. And then, so do you see where it says like teaser, result? So these are the view modes. You know how like you have the content and full content and those different things? See how it says full content there? That confusing thing when you're saving the content types, it's like, oh, I forgot to save it under full content. So that's called a view mode. And basically you can set different fields for different view modes and you can create new ones. Like you could say, oh, project page attachment view mode. And then you could select that, and then all the fields that you're adding in those different places would be appearing here, and you wouldn't have to configure the fields individually. So it's just another way to approach this. I just wanted to show you an alternative for the future. I don't think we need to do this. So actually, I think canceling out of this and then hitting cancel on the view is what we're going to want to do here. But I just want to show you an alternative way to create the structure for these pages. Okay. Does that make sense?
Thank you. I do have one quick question though.
Sure. What's up?
On this page, this is actually live.
Okay.
How can we make it smaller or change that?
How can you make what?
Title.
Oh, okay. So you can do a couple.
This is live. This page is live.
Yeah. Do you want to get rid of it, or you just want to change the style of it?
I want to change the style and possibly the wording, like, and it has papers funded by this project.
Okay, so go back to the view that you just were editing. And then, so go back. Then find the view that we just made. Papers by project. Papers by project. It's up the top of the screen. It's all right. And then see where it says title, papers by project, click the link text there and you can change it.
Papers by project. How about papers funded by this project?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you can change it afterwards. So depending on what you and Alex want to do, but this is where you do it.
But I don't want it that big.
So then that would be a CSS change, like you've done any of the other style changes. You would just go and you would target that HTML element and you would change it there.
Okay.
So then make sure you save it at the bottom. And if you reload the paper page.
Okay, great.
Cool. And then you just do like you've done any of the other CSS. You can make the font size smaller and change it that way.
Okay.
Sound good?
Okay.
Cool.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Debbie. Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, great. So we'll chat sometime next week then. Does that sound okay?
That sounds great.
Cool. All right. Have a good rest of your week.
Thank you. You too. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.